Alrighty. Welcome back to the Jake Kennedy Show. Today's guest is James Beneteau. I had to do that. I was like, it's going to work. It's going to work. Oh, man. So I'm just going to start us with a prayer like always. Dear God, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the ability to be here, to be with James, to have someone in the field of MMA that has acquired knowledge the hard way. And we get to enjoy that and just experience this information. Thank you so much. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So, James, if you wouldn't mind starting us with maybe just a quick 5 to 7 minute version of your life story.
Okay. My life story, 7 minutes or less.
Or longer if you have to.
Gotcha. I don't know how to even start that. Born and raised in Detroit. Ended up out in Westland. Always loved martial arts. And always have been chasing learning it. I'm a father. I got some great kids. I don't know. I feel like we should restart.
Well, no, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, as far as like the beginnings of your MMA journey, I know you were a fighter at one time.
Yes.
And you had a gym that was not under the Stars and Strikes name at first.
Correct.
And what was that called?
Combat Sports and Fitness.
Combat Sports and Fitness. And you had a partner for that. What was his name?
It was actually 4 partners. It was 4 guys that were people that were fighters that were trying to run a gym. So they had a place to train. It was myself, Quincy Rice, Jeremy Ward, and Dave Garcia.
Okay. And Jackson MMA, Jackson, like, can you help link the memory for me on, like, Jackson MMA, like, Jackson people and, like, how you guys got connected?
Well, Quincy Rice, who was involved in that original gym, Combat Sports and Fitness, when it kind of collapsed, because we weren't making any money, we weren't necessarily trying to make money from it. We just wanted to keep it open. But it was too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Sure.
And so he moved back to Jackson because that's where he was originally from. And when that gym closed down, I decided to start my own thing, which is Stars and Strikes. 15 years ago, I opened it, and Quincy started his gym out there in Jackson. And me and him were friends. I call him one of my coaches. His fighters would train with us. Our fighters would train with him back in the formative years of this gym. Let's say the first 4 or 5 years that this place was open. So I go out there sometimes to teach. He'd come out here and teach. He'd bring his guys to spar our guys. We'd bring our guys to spar with them. So we never competed against each other. We were basically like one big team. We just had 2 different names, you know.
And Kaizen.
Yeah.
Kaizen is also a gym that back in the day, I'll put a photo of when they came and I was doing photography and rolling during like a combo session. Kaizen Jiu-Jitsu, the influence of them. I know Mike Maynor is the black belt here at the gym that is like designated for rankings and getting people on the right path, so to speak. This gym has a bunch of coaches that both wrestling, jiu-jitsu, yourself in the striking. Like, I love this diversity. I mean, maybe if you want to speak on Kaizen for just a split second.
Absolutely. So Kaizen Jiu-Jitsu used to be called East-West Martial Arts. It was ran by a guy named Ryan Ferenzi. He was the first black belt, the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Michigan. So his gym, we were kind of affiliated with him because some of my guys, like Maynor and Tim Zernowski and a few other guys, would cross-train over there, work on their jiu-jitsu, gi jiu-jitsu skills, and sometimes some of their guys would come over and roll and train with us. So we were kind of like an affiliate. Prior to Maynor being, ranked to black belt, if we were getting people ranked up, we would have to involve Ryan, either take guys to his gym, or I think he may even came over here a couple of times for some promotion. So ultimately, Ryan Ferenzi is the head of our jiu-jitsu program. He's pretty much retired in Florida now, but Maynor runs it here,
Yeah, that's good. I have a 3-part question here, so bear with me.
No problem.
So I'm just going to rifle through these. So the gym started as a predominantly fighter-only gym. Now it's shifting, or it's shifted into a place for everyone. When I was a kid, maybe 1 to 2 kids out of a class of 30 took karate or something, and jocks with egos like myself probably thought, well, I could still maybe kick their ass or something
Sure.
like that. And now MMA specifically is becoming super popular, and you are directly responsible for supplying that outlet for a lot of people.
Sure.
Was there ever a moment or an event when you noticed it started to shift?
Shift to being not so much strictly for fighters, but being for everyone.
That, and also like people like going from just straight karate disciplines to, I feel like MMA specifically nowadays is like it's like the new hotness in a way. I feel like
Sure.
people are like, oh, well, I have to do MMA because I want ground game too, or
Sure.
what have you.
Well, I think there's always been people that were delving into MMA to improve their self-defense skills that weren't fighters. Anybody forward-thinking enough would have to understand, like, if they were already, training in something that was strictly stand-up, they would have to learn something about how to fight on the ground, since a lot of fights end up on the ground. Or conversely, there might be some guys who are grapplers only that felt they needed to, get abilities with their hands and legs as far as to fight in case they couldn't get a guy to the ground. So there's always been that. I think it's become more popular over the past 4 or 5 years just because of the growth of the UFC and the ability to watch and view fights so easily. Because when I was coming up, I mean, you were lucky to see fights. You were, usually it was VHS tapes. We were trading around with each other to watch fights. And, before YouTube, maybe you get lucky and see some kickboxing or karate or, of course, boxing on TV. So the exposure was much lower. Now you're constantly being exposed to it because of social media and the phones and all that. So I think that's one big factor. I'd say really after COVID, it seems like it's become more, I guess, acceptable for non-fighter types to be involved in MMA. But there's always been non-fighter types in MMA. It's just definitely a lot more. And let me also say, when I actually opened this gym, I didn't want it to be fighter only focused. When the gym we had before CSF, when it closed down, I had a group of fighters that we had been training and had already started competing for us that were like, hey man, open a gym and we'll be there. And we also had civilians that we were training, like Felicia and MJ and them that were just training with us because they just liked the training and wanted to be able to protect themselves and love the workouts. So they were all bothering me. So my initial concept was I was just going to open a gym to teach martial arts, and fighters would be kind of a small part of the gym. Like I think I had 5 or 6 guys that were going to be there the day I opened that were actual MMA fighters. And I was always like, I just want a few fighters because they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
They never pay their bills on time. If I have regular people, at least I can pay the rent and keep the place open. But when I opened the place, it was pretty much immediately split down the middle between non-fighters and fighters. And currently I'd still say the gym's kind of like that. I mean, we've obviously got closer to 200 members at this point, and I think it's pretty well split down the middle between fighters, former fighters, people that are training to be fighters, or people that are training to compete in jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. And then you've got people that are just training for self-defense skills, law enforcement officers, firemen, soccer moms, college kids, people that can't fight because their jobs won't allow them to, but they want to have those skills. And there's a lot of people that just train here because the workouts are really hard and it gets them in shape,
Oh, yeah. And when you were starting the gym, was there ever a thought about the style of fighters you were going to produce, or like an archetype, like for the kind of fighter, like the fighter specifically, I guess?
Well, my intent with it was to definitely be a little more striking focused because that's my preferred. I mean, I love jiu-jitsu, I love grappling, but I definitely like striking a lot more, and I've got way more experience in striking. But I still had to make sure that the gym had wrestling and jiu-jitsu covered. So actually, when we first opened, I was kind of making it more of a striking and wrestling gym, not so much gi jiu-jitsu. We really didn't even have any gi jiu-jitsu until much later. It was pretty much all no gi, grappling oriented for fighting, and just working on things that on the grappling side of it were stuff that was winning in MMA fights. Nothing super intricate, nothing that was strictly for sport jiu-jitsu. As time went on, though, we started a gi side, And we advanced that up as we had more and more people starting to compete in jiu-jitsu, and wanted to be able to cover all the bases, because I think there is a benefit of doing gi jiu-jitsu if you're an MMA fighter. But yeah, initially it was going to be kind of striking and wrestling were the priorities when we first opened the gym, especially because a lot of the fighters that were coming over, or that were planning on being there that I've been training prior, almost every one of them had a wrestling experience. So.
And can you, this is not something I had written down, but it's a thought that I have kind of often about the learning curve for something like striking versus jujitsu and versus wrestling. And I think the answer is it's very dependent on just the person. Like, I've seen certain people come in and be able to level up in the belt system very quickly, because that's maybe just the way God made them. Like, they just or they have the mind for the jiu-jitsu side or the grappling side a little bit more than the striking. I prefer things on the feet. Like, my preferred disciplines go anything striking, then wrestling, then jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And like, I think that's also dependent on like my learning curve and how I was able to learn these different arts and how I was able to progress. I feel like I progressed in the striking a lot quicker than the jiu-jitsu. Do you have any like observations on that
Sure.
over the years?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, again, there's always exceptions, but generally I think people can get to a decent level of striking kind of faster than a decent level of jiu-jitsu, because in jiu-jitsu, to get really good at an armbar, let's say you got to do 1,000 repetitions to be great at an armbar, that takes a lot of time. But to have a decent jab, let's say it takes 1,000 reps to do a decent jab, you can get that down in a shorter period of time for sure. You get it down in a month, maybe you get a really good jab.
Yeah.
So the core parts, the fundamentals for striking, I think you can get good at and proficient at a little faster than the true fundamentals of grappling or jiu-jitsu. But I think also there's a point you hit in striking where it's like almost like two tiers. You've got that good solid fundamentals, and then you got another level where you've got a footwork and fakes and feints and trickery that's at another level, black belt level type striking, and people kind of hit those notches as they go. So in my opinion, yeah, you can get very proficient in striking, generally speaking, in a shorter period of time than quote unquote very proficient at jiu-jitsu or grappling.
Yeah, I think the partner is a huge part of that too, because I can do this on my own. I can't really fake or train an armbar without
with a ghost.
Physical.
Right, with the invisible man.
Yes.
Right, and grappling dummies, they help, but it's just not the same. Whereas a striker in a heavy bag, he can get really far. I've seen guys come in that are brand new, tell me they've never trained, and they look like they've been competing and training for years. And I'll ask them, what are you doing? And they just watch YouTube videos and mimic the moves and hit a bag, and they get pretty darn solid. Now, it doesn't mean that person can take a punch because they haven't been in there and actually done it. But
the sparring is that important part.
But if you watch 5 hours of jiu-jitsu videos, you're by yourself. I don't know how much you're really going to pick up. Probably not a lot. You might visualize a little bit, but watch 5 hours of striking and try practicing it. You're going to get good at it.
Oh yeah. Now, I want to talk about MMA helping people in low spots. Examples like someone losing a job, like myself in June. This was the first place I came. Someone maybe just got out of prison, somebody getting sober, their girlfriend broke up with them, family trauma, whatever the case may be. What is it about MMA that helps people get back on their feet again?
Well, I think a lot of it, one of the reasons is the discipline of it and the physical workout, burning off the bad energy, the negative energy. We've all had a bad day, had a great workout, made us feel a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
The endorphin rush or whatever. I think that's one thing for sure, but there's something about putting yourself in, uncomfortable situations and working through it that creates a bit of a satisfaction afterwards. And I think that helps people, with stress and things of that nature. But also the camaraderie that you sometimes have in the gym, because no matter what anybody's going through, we're kind of all the same once we come in here.
Yeah.
We kind of all have the same goals, and we all have the same mentality. It's the same tribe. I think that is a factor, that you're around people that are similar to you, people that are not afraid to work hard, people that are not afraid to wrestle with you, hit you with your permission, of course. People that aren't afraid to push you. It's very little slacking that goes on in a place like this. So that's a factor. I think if a person is in a bad spot, depressed, and you get into this, it gives you a goal, it gives you a thing to strive for and
Yes.
aim at. But along the way, you're making yourself a better person because you're learning humility constantly because you're getting your butt kicked by everybody.
Yep.
You're honing your body into a tool. You got to be mentally strong to do this. You got to be tough to do it because you're going to get hit. You're going to get twisted into a pretzel. You're going to get hurt sometimes, and then you got to
Yeah.
come right back from being hurt.
Yeah.
So it's like a mental, like a tenacity that you build from this that makes dealing with things in life so much less serious in a way.
Yeah.
Like being able to come in here and do rounds upon rounds of sparring with professional amateur fighters and do the same workouts they're doing and sweat through 4 T-shirts and then go deal with, some jerk at your job the next day. It really helps a lot because, one, you've burnt off that negative energy, but 2, it's like the other problems in life should pale in comparison to that.
That's really good. What is the best part and the worst part of your job?
The best part of my job is I don't have to wake up until I want to wake up in the morning.
There you go.
I don't have to necessarily set an alarm clock because basically I work afternoon and nights. But in all seriousness, the best part of this job is watching people change and become better, and not just in the martial arts side of it. I've watched people's personalities change and watch them progress emotionally and mentally over the years. There's so many people here that have been training with me 10 plus years since I've opened the place. I mean, there's 40 people here probably that have been training with me over 10 years. That's quite a bit of people that I've got to watch over the years. So that's one of the best parts, is continually watching this product change people for the better.
Yeah.
The worst part could be, dealing with the promotion side of getting my guys fights, dealing with setting up matchups, and things like that. That can be very stressful. Figuring out where to put guys at, where to get guys fights. Probably the number one stress comes from dealing with the actual entertainment side of this for
Sure.
the fighting side. But as far as like gym, worst thing, coming into it being filthy and the guys not cleaning up after themselves.
Sure.
But yeah, other than that, it's there's always good and bads with every
Of
kind
course.
of job. But I'm definitely
Of
doing
course.
the thing I know I was supposed to be doing all along, and I'm very happy with my job.
Amen. You live the MMA lifestyle to a T. If you're not training martial arts, you're out on the range, keeping your skills sharp there. We live in a country that overall is pretty safe. What would you say to someone who has zero training, zero guns, and no action plan if something goes wrong?
If something goes wrong, like a end of the world,
Given any situation.
Zombie apocalypse.
Zombie apocalypse. Somebody is mugging you outside the 7-Eleven. Somebody is just giving you a hard time. Maybe even like something simple like your job.
let's
like
just say somebody approached me to ask about how they should protect themselves. Somebody who's not training in martial arts, or if they are training in martial arts, I'm going to tell them, get a gun. They need to buy a gun, at
Yeah.
least a good handgun.
the great equalizer.
Yeah, handguns make everybody equal. Without getting too deep into that, I guess is once you get a gun, getting some training, actual training, not just shooting the gun at a range. Get some training, whether it be from a actual firearms coach or from somebody that you're from a family member or a friend or somebody that's very familiar with weapons and has very good training when it comes to firearms, because obviously they're very dangerous. It's a portable killing machine.
Yeah.
So you need to be absolutely perfect with it. So I know a lot of people would buy a gun, shoot it a little bit, stick it in a drawer in their house or something like that. And I just think that's, just dumb. If you're gonna have a device that can do that, it's like if you got a car, you need to know how to drive it. You go to driver's ed.
Yeah.
Or your dad taught you how to drive or whatever.
Sure.
Same thing when it comes to a gun. Get a gun. Everybody should have a gun, especially a female, and get some form of training.
Yeah. This is kind of a side point that I wanted to make. If I had a Mount Rushmore of people that have influenced me, you would be one of them.
Thank you.
And the firearms training, you got me into that.
Mm-hmm.
I asked Mickey Shook from Carry Trainer this same question because you were the one that said this to me. I consider firearms a martial art because
Yes.
it is preparing you for war. It is preparing you in case something happens. And so, and I'll just say this because I thought of it too. Like some Christians, I'm a Christian, have like been battling the subject of should Christians even carry a firearm. But I thought about, and you could probably find a Bible reference to back up either side. But the one that I thought of was when they were rebuilding the walls of Jericho. They had the hammer in one hand, and they had or it could be Jerusalem. I'm sorry. I'm not the best Bible referencer. But they had the hammer in one hand to build the wall and a sword in the other to defend themselves against whoever was going to come and try and stop them from doing that. So I don't know if you have a comment on that, but I just thought I'd reference it because, again, that's like, to me, you definitely put me in a space where I didn't even consider guns, and there's probably a lot of people who just think that, again, I live in a safe enough area, I don't even need to train like that. But now I consider guns, like I took a trip out to Connecticut. The laws are very different there.
Sure.
And I just feel like coming back to Michigan and knowing I can carry and I have my license, I did all the CPL training and I've taken multiple courses. I've prepared myself in that way, and I think you've helped a lot of people maybe get them set up or given them advice on like kind of how to approach that direction.
Yeah.
Or I guess if you have any 2 cents on that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, for one thing, at least having the gun on you is going to give you a peace of mind. Like when you were saying coming back from Connecticut, I'm sure once you got back home and you were like, okay, I can carry again, kind of probably relaxed you a little bit.
Yeah.
We know, no matter where you live, things are going to happen. I mean, in this area where this gym's located, it's not a crazy high crime area, but there's things that happen. And, if you're going to carry a gun, you're not just carrying a gun to protect yourself. You might have to protect other people.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the church side of things, I've actually trained the security team for my family's church, and those guys are definitely, taking that very seriously because obviously churches are being attacked these days.
Yeah.
As well as businesses and things of that nature. But as far as the Christian side of it, if you don't have a gun, how are you going to protect your children? If for some reason they were going to try to eliminate every Christian and they were going to do it by force, you better have a gun. You better have something that can deter them from doing such a thing.
Right.
Passivity is awesome. Being peaceful is great. But, at the end of the day, we're basically animals. And for thousands and thousands of years, we were just killing each other and taking from each other. And we're only a couple of hundred years away from what used to be basically dog eat dog. And we could get back to that very quickly if the wrong things happen, even in just the next few years,
Oh, yeah.
We've seen examples of that when there's been, like Hurricane Katrina and other natural disasters and how extreme people might go in just an extremely short period of time to get what they want. There's a lot of great people out there, but there are a few bad people out there.
Yeah.
And that cream rises to the top when there's a problem.
Right. And I'll just reference this real quick because I just posted it today. The veteran that I interviewed 2 weekends ago, he went to Nasiriyah in Iraq and said he got to witness the collapse of that society very quickly. And I'm sure that there's someone who has a lot of insight on like to the whys that happened, but he said he got to witness people like being terrible to each other.
Yeah.
And, I don't know exactly what outside of being just like illegally getting yourself a gun in Iraq looks like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like, just
probably
like
full auto.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, being prepared if something like that happens, and I guess the extent to which you're willing to take to do that, because at least here in Michigan, in the U.S., I'm pretty sure every state has some sort of legal means for you to be able to protect yourself in this way. Again, the great equalizer being a gun if you're a female or even if you're a male, like you could be like, let's say I run into Dean Caldwell on the streets, like the guy that you do not want to run into. Let's say he's having a bad day, and now I'm like, well, shoot, I got to protect myself from you, and, I'm pretty well trained, but I don't know if I'm that well trained. You know what I mean?
And that's where the equalizing
That's right.
aspect comes in. But let me also say too, like just because a person has a gun doesn't mean they shouldn't have some self-defense training.
Of course.
Because definitely not every situation calls for you killing somebody.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot of people, I've ran into this and I've addressed this before, where people will say, I don't need to train because I carry a gun. And usually they're saying that to me maybe from this distance. And I guarantee you I could take their life before they could get that gun out of their pants, because they're not trained. And they assume because they have that gun now they're invincible. And you're not. Again, not every situation requires shooting somebody.
Yeah.
There might be a situation less than lethal, and you may need to use your hands. Even if it's just a person assaulting another person and you feel like you have to get in there and stop that person, you have to have some skills.
Yes.
Or you have to have some skills to stop somebody from taking your gun off you if a person like me tried to take your gun off of you.
Yeah.
But a lot of people out there that have a CPL don't bother with training like that, or don't want to train like that. They're not in shape enough to train like that.
Sure.
And unfortunately, they're making a big mistake.
Yeah.
And because there's been more than a few times I've dealt with situations with a gun on my body and had to put my hands on people, had to involve myself in things, never had to use my gun.
Yeah.
But somebody else in that situation, they may have, because
Yeah.
they don't have hand-to-hand options, basically.
Yes.
Or even the confidence of it.
Yes.
You know?
I love to see the videos of the jiu-jitsu instructor throwing the fake gun on the floor,
Yeah.
and they say go, and then they have to
Yeah.
go fight for the gun, and then they like down, 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 like as soon as they get a good shot on them.
Yeah,
or
we've
whoever
done
gets it.
we've done that here, like not last Christmas party, but the Christmas party before. Or we did do it last Christmas too. So
Yeah,
it's definitely it's just a free for all at that point. It's pretty fun to watch.
an exercise to
Yeah.
witness. I'd like to think as long as someone is training, you're happy. But if someone was looking to get into this either as a casual or as a competitor, why should someone come to Stars and Strikes MMA?
Well, we have 5.0 reviews on Google, and we've been open almost 16 years. So, like I often will say, is if we weren't good at what we do, somebody would be talking about it. If we were not good coaches, good people, there'd be somebody that would be putting up a negative review, especially after all these years. That'd be my most simple answer to just a random, like, hey, we got 5.0 reviews online, and we've been in business 16 years. Most gyms don't last that long. Most martial arts academies will not last that long. But another reason is every fighter and coach here was built by this gym. We don't hire people from other gyms. We don't recruit fighters. We have many fighters will come and join our gym and join our team. Some of them work out, some of them don't. But the core of this gym, the instructors, and especially the fighters, are all built by us. Me and my guys that I trained, who are now coaches here, that are helping me build the next generation of fighters, our current amateurs and pros that we have at this gym. So that's another factor. We've been doing this long enough to where we know how to do it. 16 years, we know how to make an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
16 years, we know how to teach people how to fight in a cage, which means we can teach you how to fight on the street if you needed to.
Yeah.
And at the very least, you're going to get in great shape. I mean, everybody wants to look like an MMA fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not Roy Nelson, but pretty much everybody else that's fighting.
I loved the meme you posted of my life in 30 seconds. And it's, hey, coach, what should I eat right now? Hey, coach, the so-and-so is sparring hard on me. Can you take care of it? Hey, coach, can you? And it's like, people look to you as like a real resource for information on even just lifestyle advice. And even like me, like you've been readily available for me in that aspect over the years, of course. But even just being in here and picking up on all of the things that not only you've taught people along the way, the camaraderie aspect is crucial. Like, it is huge to just be in a place where like this, it truly, I think, is a place where people are, not everyone, but a lot of people here in some degree are trying to get to a form that is going to bring out the best in you. So,
well, that's awesome. That's what I like to hear.
Yes.
And that's why we seem to do a good job of keeping people happy when they do join this place. I'm very proud of what we've built, me and the guys.
Oh, yeah. Now, if I were to sum you up in 3 words, It would be guns, MMA in America, and then I put leader in parentheses.
Thank you.
Is there a side to JB, James Beneteau, we don't know? Is there a place you go to get away from it all? And my follow up here is like books you read, YouTube channels you watch, content you consume.
Um, you know
Are
what?
you're
Outside of those things, I don't have a lot going on. I mean, when I'm just killing time, I watch movies and TV shows, just like probably a lot of other people do. I do consume a lot of podcasts, a lot of
yeah,
history-based podcasts, military history, war history. Usually when I am watching TV, I'm usually watching YouTube. Looking at different videos and stuff, getting down crazy rabbit holes. What I try to do is when I am out of here, I try my best to not still be thinking about this place or working, so to speak, for this place because
yeah,
my
oh
phone
yeah,
goes constant between promotions, calling me MMA shows and potential customers, people from the gym, people I know outside the gym. My phone is always going bananas. So sometimes I just got to almost put it away and just veg out watching some TV, or
yeah,
watching some TV series I'm into, or just going down rabbit holes on YouTube.
yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah, I don't have, but it sounds weird, but really that's my life is martial arts and weapons
Sure.
and action movies.
Yeah, I
I
was like,
don't, I
there's no
don't,
secret.
I don't
like,
have much old school hip
sewing
hop rap.
hobby of
That's
yours or anything.
my favorite music genre. I love that. That's what I listen to most of the time.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not that interesting.
No, no. I mean, now like this is what a lot of people want. You got me into guns, and I kind of referenced this earlier, and many others as well. Help them obtain their CPLs, things like that. You used to be in law enforcement. Is there a place your love for firearms started? Did you go hunting as a kid or have any movies that influenced you? Like, I loved The Matrix. So when I saw The Matrix, I was like, that is amazing.
For sure, I was influenced by Rambo, Commando, and all the 80s action movies
Yep.
that I grew up on. Influenced me in martial arts because you had Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Lee, and all that. But on the gun side of things, I was always kind of enamored with guns because of Rambo or Arnold's movies.
Yeah.
And that era, that genre of action movies. But I really didn't start taking firearms too seriously till a little later in my adulthood. It wasn't like the thing I did when I was 21 years old. First thing I did, I bought a handgun, wanted my own gun. But I didn't get into it as deep as far as the training side, going to people to train me and advancing my skills up until a little deeper into my adulthood. After my kids were born and they were getting a little older, I realized that I'm putting all this time into martial arts training to use my body as a weapon, but I only had a minimal amount of training with a firearm, especially when it came to rifles and things of that nature. I didn't grow up hunting or anything like that.
Okay.
And there were some other people that were around me that kind of influenced me to get into guns, and just gradually became a bigger part of my life.
Yeah. And I mean, that I wanted to say too is like part of, I mean, you solidified sort of my love for certain platforms early on. I just did an AK podcast.
Yeah.
The Glock 17 Gen 3 you let me use for my first time ever shooting a pistol. And I just was going to ask for a solidification in opinion on those, I guess.
Okay.
If I know most people say if there was an end of the world situation, like they'd probably have an AR in 5.56, because that's what's just so commonly available. If you were to go into a neighborhood, probably 10 of the houses in that neighborhood are maybe going to have an AR-15 in
Right.
it. So if you just want to riff on that for 2
Sure.
seconds.
Well, there was a time I would always say, if the zombies came back to life, whatever, I would use my AKs first because of the simplicity of the design, the fact that you almost don't have to maintain them, and yet they're still going to operate effectively. The stopping power of the weapon,
Yes.
7.62 by 39 is a very powerful round.
Yes.
Compared to 5.56. But now I would have to agree that it's probably best to go with an AR type weapon in 5.56
Right.
/223. I used to always say, an AR is for like riots and social unrest, and AKs for Mad Max times.
Yeah.
But again, with the proliferation of ARs, especially over the past 7 or 8 years, finding ammo, parts, and things of that nature is going to be a lot easier if we did have like a social collapse or whatever. So it makes sense to go with an AR type weapon. The thing with ARs that's really good about them is the modularity and the ability to, weapon lights and dot sights and just, maximizing its potential. And you could do that with an AK as well. But again, with the fact that if you're in a situation like that, ammo is going to be finite, and definitely 7.62 by 39 is going to be even harder to find
Right.
as time goes on. So, I've leaned more into. I used to prefer AKs over ARs, but I've leaned in the other direction over the past few years.
Yes. Yes.
But I still love AKs. I own several.
Oh,
of them.
yes. That was my first AK I shot.
Yeah.
You took me to the range,
Awesome.
and I got to shoot one of your SLRs, and that was awesome. One last riff from you before we hop into this.
Okay.
Athleticism translating to other sports from MMA. If you can do MMA, you can do anything, is a point I have written down. And I'm on a soccer team right now, and I think even just the confidence that I bring to the field, because I feel like I have that. I've been training here 10 years, and I've always been a better defender than I have for offense, whether basketball, soccer. Even when I went snowboarding for the first time after training here, I felt like I was like, I don't know, like just a little bit more sure on my feet. Do you have any 2 cents on that? Or have you ever like met someone who, when I interviewed Dean, he was a quarterback before he came here. And I don't think he ever went back to play football. But at the same time, it's just like, I think this sport translates beautiful to everything else. Like kids, I feel like when I have kids, I want to put them in martial arts first.
Should.
Any of these, and these, just to spoiler alert, I picked ones that I thought were kind of like pinnacle or most essential, best bang for buck first. And I left room at the bottom if you feel like there's anything that deserves an honorable mention.
Gotcha.
But that is something that I think I want to institute when I have kids early on.
Absolutely. I did it with my kids. I was teaching them how to do arm bars before they could walk. Peyton and Nathan grew up in this gym, and Peyton obviously is a fighter for this gym.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to put your kids into martial arts because at the very least, like something you just mentioned, it gives you a confidence. It makes you very comfortable. You're dealing with people all the time, so you're not as socially awkward as some other kids might be.
Sure.
You're comfortable in your own skin. You're not afraid of anyone once you get to a certain skill level. Those things are critical, especially if you had a daughter or something like that. You want them to learn martial, not only for the fighting aspect or protect yourself aspect, but the other things you get from it, the athleticism you get from it, the ability to understand range and distance, how to offset somebody's body weight if they're on top of you, things like that. Those are crucial things. And if you ever have to use those skills, it's worth every penny.
Oh, yeah.
But the other things you get from martial arts pay you off in life all the time. Not just the athletic side, but the mentality you get, the confidence you get from it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's critical definitely to put kids into martial arts or at least have them wrestling if a parent couldn't afford actual martial arts training for their kid because it will make them a better person, make them an athlete, and it'll make them understand how to use their body, how to move their body, and most importantly, how to defend their body.
Yes. And you mentioned somebody getting on top of you, and that to me, like when I've trained here against PJ or like on the jiu-jitsu side and had the heavier or the heaviest guy, if you can get like the biggest guy in the gym to go to roll with you in jiu-jitsu, I think that is like a bang for buck, like greatest way to like get yourself like, dude, because this is the doomsday scenario for some people, right? Like some massive guy that's got maybe 100 pounds on you is now forcing his will on you, and you have to at least know how to get out of there and like get back to your feet. So maybe you can even just run away. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a great bang for buck in here.
For sure.
If you can just roll with the biggest guy possible, like I would do it.
Even if a person came into a gym like ours where you're learning how to fight on the ground, how to fight standing up, even if you did this for 6 months, it's going to give you some pretty solid self-defense skills, some basics that you're never going to really forget.
Yeah.
Even for just 6 months. That's one of the things about MMA is you can get fairly proficient at self-defense in a relatively short period of time. I'd say usually when I say 6 months, that means coming 3-ish times a week.
Yes.
It means not once a week. At least if a guy came or a girl came for 3 times a week for 6 months, they're going to be pretty okay. They're going to have a way better knowledge than 95% of the people out there.
Yes.
But of course, the more time you spend, the greater you're going to get at it. I'll contend that making it a lifestyle is good for you.
Yes.
And there are people here that live the martial arts lifestyle. But even if they just did 6 months, they'd have some solid skills. So,
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump into our little activity here now. And like I said, this list is comprised of what I thought to be the most useful, let's say, martial arts, because obviously MMA can't be without these,
Sure.
So, in your opinion, this is the James Beneteau's martial arts tier list.
Okay.
S tier being like the best, A second best, B third, C D, just like school.
So S is top, A is B level, B is C level,
Right.
C is D level. Okay.
Exactly. And if there is a honorable mention, again, we'll get to that. But as far as like human beings that either influenced you or people in this gym that you just would like to put as reference in the boxing, jiu-jitsu, any of them is okay. So if you want a marker, I can hand you a marker, or I can mark them down. It's fine.
I'm too nervous to use a marker.
That's okay.
Well, S tier, the top of the line, I'm going to go with wrestling. I think it's definitely the most important part of MMA. You don't have to be a wrestler to get really good at MMA, but if you're a wrestler, you're going to have an advantage getting into this. And if you just did wrestling and never did anything else, you are probably still very good at protecting yourself. You might not even realize it. If you're just a straight wrestler, you wrestled in high school maybe for a few years, you're going to have self-defense skills that will carry you through life potentially, because you could pick somebody up and throw them on the ground or stop somebody from putting you on the ground. So I definitely got to rank wrestling as S. Then there's another tier. There's something on that I'd like you to add on there. We're going to call it MMA striking, okay, which I will also list as S tier. MMA striking.
You said S.
S, yes. Okay. Now, for the A's, I'm going to go with Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. This is going to start ticking people off. Watch. I'm going to be making people mad with this. And when I say Jiu-Jitsu, that can be gi or no gi.
Right. 10th Planet, folks. We've had a lot of them come through here.
I'm a brown belt in judo, so I hate saying B. But my B level on there would be judo, as it's generally practiced. And then the rest I will list as C.
And I'm using red, but don't take it too personally, boxing or karate. Or
Okay, so now I'll explain myself. First of all, any of those martial arts listed, if a person's good at them, they're probably set for a self-defense scenario. A good boxer, a person that's like trained a good hard style of taekwondo or karate where there's been contact, not just where they're punching the air and, have like weird no contact sparring or whatever. Boxing for sure is I would almost list it as B, but I have to keep it at C because of karate and taekwondo. It's going to make some people mad, man. But, why I would say the ones that are C, boxing is excellent self-defense system, and we can see it work effectively in real world fights. But it's technically just your hands and some amazing footwork and head movement. But you got two weapons, whereas there's other martial arts that provide you with boxing level hand skills as well as other tools, which I'll get into. I list karate and taekwondo as well as C's because they're a stand-up only art, and their hand skills are not
If you want to
near
pull
the
the
level.
mic a little bit closer,
Their hand skills in karate and taekwondo, generally speaking, are not as good as boxing. So boxing, excellent hand skills, but no leg techniques. And then you got karate and taekwondo where there's excellent kicking, but the hand skills don't quite measure up. So that's why I've listed them as C. But if you're training in a harder style of taekwondo or karate and training in real boxing, not title boxing, you're going to have great self-defense skills, especially if you live in a town where that's all you have access to. Do it, train in it, especially if it's got some real world action in it. The B level, I put judo. I love judo. And we can get into a crazy long debate about how judo and jiu-jitsu are nearly the same thing, but I'll list it at B based on how it's generally trained, especially in America, where once, it goes to the ground, it's a limited amount of time to work. My coaches in judo, Quincy Rice, Dave Garcia, and Walter Lamb, they would go to the ground and they didn't stop. So their style of judo looked very similar to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And we know that they're connected, but again, we don't want to go all into the history of it. But I'll list it as B because it doesn't really have any striking necessarily, and some of the guys that do judo, their ground skills when they're actually on the ground are very limited. But man, a good judo guy could throw you on your head on the cement, kill you. So I mean, it's still a very, very, very good and legit martial art.
Is
But
Sambo-
standalone wise, Sambo and judo are very similar, but Sambo has striking mixed in as well as a heavier degree of leg locks.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I didn't tell you, hey, you should put Sambo on there too.
Yeah.
So Sambo's almost like judo hybrid where they've added kicks and punches.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great martial art, but it's not accessible like all the other ones are on, or not as accessible as all the other ones on here. So again, I'll list judo as a B, and then for A, jiu-jitsu. We all know it's awesome. We all know it's a great self-defense system. It is missing hand strikes and things like that. Some jiu-jitsu, they don't work too heavy on takedown techniques and things of that nature, or takedown defense. So I think some schools need to implement that more. That's why we have a heavy emphasis here is having takedowns and things of that nature, like from wrestling. But if you're training jiu-jitsu and you're training it physically, like grappling all the time, one thing about striking arts and grappling arts that's different is in striking arts you have to control your power and you have to control how hard you go, whereas in grappling you can pretty much go close to 100%.
Yeah.
You might be considered kind of a dick in training, but you can go virtually as full blast as you would go in a real life self-defense scenario, so you get good at it, you know what I'm saying, and wrapping somebody up, being able to twist them to the ground, being able to twist their head off. So that's why I listed jiu-jitsu as an A. And Muay Thai, I gave it an A as well because you've got hands, elbows, knees, and kicks. It's a very tough martial art. If a person's training real Muay Thai, they're going to be tough. They're going to be physically tough. And there's a level of grappling involved in it because of the clinch game.
Clinching, yeah.
Good, solid Muay Thai guys usually have a really good base. I've known Muay Thai guys that have trained with us, and they never wrestled, never did jiu-jitsu, but they were almost impossible to take down unless you really got a hold of their legs, especially from a clinch position.
That incorporates like a little bit of wrestling judo type stuff too, because of the throws.
Right. Yeah. So, and a lot of people will be like, well, the fight's always going to go to the ground, and that's not really true. Most fights end relatively fast. I mean, we can watch all the videos on Instagram of street fights. A lot of fights do, but in my opinion, you need to know how to fight standing up as well as fight on the ground. You know? Plus, in a self-defense scenario, if I'm a jiu-jitsu guy and I got to grab this guy and take him to the ground, and I don't know if he's got a knife on him or he's got buddies with him, something like that. That's why I listed it as an A, not a S class, and that's why I took Muay Thai as well and listed it as an A instead of an S class, because it doesn't have ground fighting skills, because you're going to need at least some of that. So why I listed wrestling as S and MMA striking as S is a pure wrestler is still going to be a real problem in a street fight. He's probably very tough. He's probably been thrown on his head a few times. He's probably maybe even been knocked out wrestling. So usually they're tough guys. And they got the capability to close distance on you and grab you a lot faster than most other martial arts. And if it's a good wrestler and you don't have any ground training, he's going to put you on the ground and just start punching you, and you're in big trouble. So that's why I listed wrestling as S. And when I say MMA striking as an S, that's because our hybridized version of striking that I teach and other people teach is really not Muay Thai anymore. It's really not boxing anymore. It's really not karate or taekwondo. It's a molding of all those arts, as well as if you're doing MMA striking, you're also working takedown defense. You're also working clinching. You're also working underhooks and overhooks. And of course, if you're doing MMA striking, you're going to have some of it go into the ground. I'm not saying MMA in general, because in my opinion, MMA is a class above all of these. If there was a class above us, MMA as a whole, because now you've got the capability to fight wherever you want or stop the fight from going anywhere anybody wants to take it. And you have the best skills from striking, the best wrestling skills, and the best skills at jiu-jitsu. So I list MMA, period, mixed martial arts, as a martial art above all of these because it's just taking the best of all of it. But I put MMA striking as an S because you're getting realistic striking footwork. It's very in and out based, distance based, and that's a little more important for street fighting, being able to create space, create distance, or being able to dart in and make contact and get back out quickly. And if you're doing MMA striking, you're probably going to have at least a little bit of skills when it comes to grappling. If somebody's putting their hands on you, grabbing you, clinching with you, trying to take you to the ground. So that's why I listed as S, and wrestling as S.
Beautiful. The 2 cents I want to add are like, because this is the only gym I've ever been to for martial arts of any kind. So I've been very blessed in that way. Now, what I will say is you mentioned watching YouTube videos, watched Taekwondo when I wanted my kicks to get better. That's a very kick-heavy sport. And, even though in comparison we have it as a C tier, when I was, like I said, just trying to get my kicks a little nicer, I even still wouldn't mind going to an actual Taekwondo gym just to, train that specifically.
Sure.
I have worked with boxing coaches, and same thing. Just getting that head movement better, getting the movement and just hands a lot better. I'm not saying that you don't get good hands here. I'm just saying, if you were just trying to get that incorporated, there's different ways. There's 16 different ways to throw the same punch, right? You can step, you can lean, you can shift your weight, a lot of different things that you can learn from some of these different disciplines. And also, you're gonna want to keep yourself involved because these are all perishing skills. If you don't train for a year, yeah, you may know it and you might go back to whatever you're comfortable with. But if you think that same move that worked a year ago on the guys that have been training for the year, through that, you're gonna get hit.
100%.
And I just thought I'd mention it. I didn't put Krav Maga on here. I didn't put Kung Fu on here. Or Aikido, if that's how you say it, or Tung Sudo. People who have trained in all of these different marts.
Yeah, I've trained in Krav Maga, and I've trained in Tang Sudo.
Yeah.
And I was already competing as a fighter and had years of martial arts training when I took Krav Maga. And for me, it wasn't really teaching me anything that I didn't already know. It's more of a system, like how combatives is a system.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll give Krav Maga is at least they're trying to keep the people training consistently. A lot of times when you do a combatives program, whether it be for military, law enforcement, you're not constantly working on those skills or refreshing those skills. You may do it once or twice a year, maybe less than that. Even if you're doing it 4 times a year, it's probably not enough to keep you very up. Now, in law enforcement, you're putting your hands on people all the time, so you're kind of working those skills in live action. Right. So if they only get to requalify every year, every 2 years, I guess that kind of makes sense because they're actually going hands-on a little bit. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But basically, they're more Krav Maga and combatives and things of that nature. They're more of a system, not so much a martial art. A martial art is something where you're immersing yourself completely into it, trying to learn it and understand, or at least trying to get the best parts of it. And along the way, you're getting some stuff to feed your spirit and your soul and your brain and your psychology. And I'm not saying Krav Maga can't do that or combatives can't either, but it's just they're more like, hey, this is it's more set up where you're just following a program or a plan.
Sure.
Again, those are great to take as well, but I wouldn't consider them martial arts, so to speak. Whereas Kung Fu is a martial art. There's a lot of history in it. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little lower on the tiers, but it's still a real martial art. So, but things like Krav Maga and all that, that's more like packaged system on this is how we're going to address this threat, this
Okay.
thing or that thing. Whereas especially with MMA, you've got limitless options of how you can
Right.
address the situation. So
How things might go, things like that.
exactly.
Well, I'm pretty satisfied with our
Awesome.
list here and with everything. In closing, is
And
there
this was
any?
all generalities, so don't get mad at me and be like, I'm not dissing boxing. I love boxing. I boxed. I mean, I teach boxing. You know,
Yeah.
I love all of these, but we're just speaking in I'm speaking in generalities. There's always an exception to the rule. You know, I know people I knew guys that did kung fu that were BMFs. They were tough. A lot of you take any striking art where there's kicks involved, no matter what they're from. I always say this no matter what they're from, karate, kung fu, taekwondo, tang sudo, ishinru, whatever, boxing, kickboxing, but you allow kicks. If you put those guys, any of those guys together from any of those arts, and you just tell them to go at it, it kind of turns into sloppy kickboxing or sloppy Muay Thai or sloppy MMA striking. So if you add kicks and you just have two guys go at it, let's say it's a karate guy and a kung fu guy, it's gonna turn into sloppy kickboxing. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I guess the point I was trying to make with that is, so if you got guys that are tough, they're gonna be able to use those skills. They're gonna be sloppy, but they could protect themselves. But I guess it comes down to the environment that they came up training in, and how tough it was.
Yeah. Well, is there anything in closing as far as a statement that you'd like to make? Like I said, you're one of the most influential people in my life today. Just want to shake your hand
you,
there.
brother.
So, I've appreciated so many hours and sweat. And like when I was getting sober too, like I just remember coming back in here. And I wanted to mention Ben Phillips. You trained with him and
Yep.
helped him a long way. And whenever I'm doing the cardio workouts and stuff, I feel like it takes me back to where I first started. And it like just always is keeping me humble, keeping me level-headed, and remembering that whether I go on a soccer field and I am the best guy there or I'm not, but like maybe I'm just working or doing my thing there, it's like anytime I come back here, it always just reminds me of that place I started and just the fact that there are dudes here that can really do it to you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to come under that roof, under that understanding, like we're all here to train, we're all here to get better, and having a place like that where it's like once we come here, Dean said it on my other podcast, it's like we're all one in a way. Anything you want to say?
Well, first of all, let me say I appreciate you being a part of this family, this
Thank you.
gym. I remember when you just first started coming around just to film Ken for some video series you were
That's
doing,
right.
and then you became one of us. So that's awesome to me. And I do this job, I run this gym, one, because I love it. I love being still involved in martial arts, and I need to pay my bills. But I say this, and I hope people don't think I'm just saying it, but I often say it's an honor to be in your life. It's an honor to be in your life. It's an honor to be in any person's life that is trusting me and my guys to train them, trusting me with their safety,
Yes.
and trusting me to give them this gift that I have, because based on my upbringing and my life, I'm still in shock. This is what I'm doing with my life. It blows my mind that this is where I ended up, and I'm
Yeah.
when it comes to my business, my employment, or whatever, I'm very, very happy with it. And I've always been notoriously unhappy wherever I was ever working.
Sure.
But it really, for me, this is not just, I'm trying to make money teaching martial arts. And people that know me personally know that I am not hung up on money. But luckily, I can make a living doing this and keep this place open. But I really am happy that I can impact people's lives by giving them this thing called MMA. And again, it's not about the fighting skills, it's the other stuff you get from it, especially with today, with how some people are being raised, how there's a lack of kind of toughness in society that
Sure.
that these kids might need at some point in their life. It truly is an honor to be doing this job and having these people come in here and trust me ultimately with their life, especially the guys that I'm putting into the cage. I mean, there's days when I'm in awe of it, and that hasn't gotten old for me, and I haven't ever taken it for granted, because when that happens, then I know it's probably time for me to move on. But hopefully, I never do. I mean, I'm very thankful for where God has put me, and I'm very thankful that I'm doing what I was supposed to do. And 90% of the time, when you were saying like best and worst, 90% of the time I'm having the best night, the best life.
Yeah.
When it comes to this place.
Absolutely. I think I'm just going to say a quick prayer and close, and then we can head out.
Yes, sir.
Dear God, I do just thank you for this day, and I thank you that you put James here, and he's impacted so many lives, God, here, and it's just truly a blessing to be able to experience this and have this as a part of my legacy, as a part of my story, and so many others as well. And as we continue in our days on this earth, God, I just pray that for everybody who's watching this, everybody who's training here, everybody who's just out there in general, God, that they would know that there is safety and there is security, and there are options out there, and we just thank you for even having that as an option. Thank you again for Stars and Strikes MMA, this opportunity for interviewing James today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Sir.
Appreciate it so much.
Yes, sir.